Leinster's run just goes on and on and on. They can switch 15 players and still get a 28 points to 10 win over the second place team in that conference. They are just an absolute juggernaut of a side, and they keep on going. So yeah, 28 points to 10. It was a bit of a weird game, and that Leinster kind of came out firing. Ulster seemed a bit off the pace. We saw a few uncharacteristic errors from some players, especially some of the Ulster players, to be honest. And yeah, I know it's going to take a while to shake off that rust. It's not easy to get into match fitness after just 1 week of games. But yeah, it's a bit of a disappointing one from an Ulster perspective. But as I said, for Leinster, it's just another day at the office and a pretty comfortable win in the end. Ed Byrne got us underway. The captain. It was a pretty prop-like try. It was about a metre out. They'd gone through some phases, and it had all been set up by a little kick through reminiscent of what they did against Munster last week. So good try for Leinster early, 7 points to 0. Leinster got a penalty on about 15 minutes, and they'd had pretty much all the play up until that point, so it was 10-0, and then they got another one on about 23 minutes to make it 13-0, and at that stage, Ulster hadn't really been in the game. They needed a big wake-up call, and fortunately, they did actually start from about the 13-0 point. They really seemed to switch on, and it started to compete in the game, because as I said, up until that point, they hadn't really had much of anything. They put some pressure on Leinster. Eventually they got a penalty and had a 5 metre line out, but then their line out failed them, and they only had one failed line out in the whole game. I think they were at 93% in this game, but that was a pretty crucial one to lose. 33 minutes, they knocked on an easy pass. I think it was Cooney. Knocked on a straightforward pass from a line out win. He'd box kicked out on the full. Again, it was Cooney. I was giving him a lot of praise in the preview because, he'd probably been Ireland's Form 9 in recent times prior to lockdown. And, it wasn't going his way. But as I said, it takes more than one game to get all that match sharpness back. 38 minutes, Ulster got a penalty. They kicked it towards the 22 of Leinster. They got a line out. They mauled it, but Leinster managed to turn them over. Their defense was just phenomenal. So, yeah, it's 13-0 at half time. And Leinster are looking pretty comfortable. As I said, Ulster did start to come back into the game. Look at the stats. Run meters 153 to 69 in Ulster's favour. Possession 54%, territory 55% again in Ulster's favour. Knock-ons are even, 2 apiece, but turnovers conceded as 5-2. So Ulster were getting turnover a wee bit at the breakdown. Those Leinster loosies just kept... There wasn't just the loosies, but just kept turning the ball over. Both sides tackling in the 90s in terms of overall percentage. Penalties conceded 7 by Ulster, 4 by Leinster. This is what I mean. Ulster, when they started to go through phases, would eventually just get pinged, isolated runners and whatnot. Second half, Leinster win a scrum penalty, and their scrum was looking pretty damn solid as well. 16-0 at that point. It's 3 scores for Ulster to try and get in front, and it's looking like mission impossible to stop this, as I said, Leinster juggernaut. However, they weren't giving up, and Rob Herring got a try on 53 minutes. It was a maul try. Again, it was only 5 metres out. Leinster contested the line out. They didn't get it, and that maybe left them a little bit vulnerable to the maul because it pretty much went straight through, splintered off, and Herring was over. So, good work from Ulster to get some points on the board, and then they kicked the penalty on 67 minutes to make it 16-10. Now, 16-10, 1 score away. 20 minutes earlier, that was looking like a bridge too far. But, game on at that point. However, maybe that triggers Leinster to pick their game back up a bit. And Scott Penny probably gets what is the try of the match. Leinster kicked it into the corner. It was acres of space, and he just ran onto it, man. He read it. It must have been telepathic communications or, a signal or whatever it was, but he knew that kick was coming. He ran for it. He managed to get it. He had to stretch to get over the line, but he got that one. So, yeah, proper good try. And then a few minutes later, Cooney, he got an intercept try. You'll notice his name's not on the board. However, he was a yard offside. The TMO got him. Otherwise, that would have been like an absolutely grandstanding finish to the game. As it was, Harry Byrne got the final try. Maybe the other contender for try of the game. It's 78 minutes. Leinster are loads of phases. They're about a metre from the line. It's just the forwards recycling the ball. And you're thinking the backs are never going to see the light of day. But as soon as they pop it out to Harry Byrne, hits the line at pace, and he goes over for a try. So yeah, finishes 28-10. Pretty comfortable win in the end. As I said, the Leinster machine just keeps trucking along. Credit to Ulster for coming back into the match after going, 16-0 down. They were looking pretty much dead and buried, but they didn't give up. They managed to get some momentum. They managed to put this Leinster team, much changed as it was, under a fair bit of pressure. But when Leinster went up another gear, they just managed to really pull it away. So run meters, final 367 to 168. That's in Ulster's favour. They did like running the ball. But they still finished in the end with less territory and less possession. They had 47% of both. It was pretty close. But, Leinster had the lion's share of both, just marginally. I mentioned Ulster's lineup was pretty good, 93%. Leinster's was at 100. Tackling percentages, again, both sides in the 90s. 94 for Ulster, 91 for Leinster. Ulster made 170 tackles. And Leinster made 156. That's a phenomenal amount. Just to put that into context, I watched an Aussie Super Rugby game last night, and the tackling was 117 by one side and 62, two numbers, 62 for the other. Both sides also in the 90s. But what's that, like 179 tackles? That's just like 9 more in that whole game than what Ulster made on their own. And Leinster made 156 on top of that. Goodness gracious. Penalties conceded was 10-11, so Leinster conceding one more. Turnovers conceded, though, that was a bit of a killer for Ulster. They had double with 10 turnovers conceded to Leinster's 5, being put under lots of pressure, as I mentioned at the breakdown. Uncharacteristic areas from Cooney, Madigan at times. So, I think this means Ulster is going to take on Edinburgh in a Pro 14 semi-final. It'll be an away trip for them. And Leinster's still waiting to see the result, I think, of the Munster-Connacht match to see whether it'll be them or Scarlets, I believe. But if that's mistaken, apologies for that. I've only just checked out the table. Individuals, it's all about the tackles in this one. Defensive shifts from both sides. Ray for Ulster had 16 from 16. Connors for Leinster had 18 out of 19. So some guys putting in proper good shifts defensively. And that final 10 minutes sparked to life with a bit of attack and play. And Leinster getting 2 tries at the end, Ulster getting 1 chalked off. But yeah, overall, pretty good watch. As I said, it was a pity that Ulster didn't seem to wake up until they were already 13 points behind. I wouldn't have thought of all the teams in the world, you want to start strongly against Leinster and not be going 13 points down, because it's going to be a hard team to catch. They did manage to get it back within a score, but no, over the course of 80, Leinster just too good. Anyway, I'm going to go. The sun is up. It's a beautiful looking day here in Auckland, so I'm going to go enjoy some of that with the kids. But you guys take care, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.